going to use the Dolphins to Stamp stamp set and the corresponding dies to make a fun birthday card for my son, who will be 11 years old next week. And he actually just is now learning how to scuba dive with his dad, and I just thought this would be perfect for him. So I'm also going to bring in the Fish to Stamp stamp set and the corresponding die set. I may use one or two of these cute little fish on this stamp set. This was one of the Stamps of Life's stamp club set a while back, so I figured I'd go ahead and incorporate that. And I might go ahead and incorporate this Island to Visit stamp set with the palm tree. Here's the branches and the palm tree and the corresponding die set. I picked this up at the Scrapbook Expo a few weeks ago, and I felt like the nice beachy theme would go well as well in this card. I'm also going to use the Summer for Fun stamp set, and I used the sandcastle and beach ball out of this. I also stamped some other images, but I'm not going to use them for this card. So I went ahead and stamped my images of my dolphin, and I'm using Copic markers to color them. By all means, I am not an expert at the Copic coloring with the alcohol markers, but I do my best. And for the dolphin, I am using WOO, WO, and W1, W3. And I'm just blending those together. The paper that I used was the Spectrum Noir smooth, ultra smooth cardstock for alcohol coloring, and I did stamp them with the Lawn Fawn jet black ink pad, which is used for alcohol markers. I did start off with the darkest color, the W3, and colored on the outline and some of those shadows there on the dolphin, and then went into the medium, which was the W1, and then the WO, and finally the WOO, which is the lightest color. I move on to the Starfish, and for the Starfish I'm using the E43 as the darkest, and then the E42, just a two-color blend there on the Starfish. The small fish, I used the yellows, which is the Y00, Y00, and Y02, and for the fin I used the YR14. For the larger fish, I used the B16 as a darker color, B14 and B12. Moving on to the Fish to Stamp set, the oranges are the YR09 as the darkest color, and then followed by the medium YR07 and the YR04 to blend all that together. And then I used the same blue as was in the blue fish to keep the colors consistent using the B16, B14, and B12. I'm taking the darkest color and just highlighting the fins and some of those areas, and then following up with the medium, and then going over it all with the light to blend that out. And I do go over it a second time, again from the dark, the medium, and then the light. I find that going over a second time, it just gives it a more distinct look and brightens up those colors. I then go into the tree stamp, and I switch over to Spectrum Noir markers, and for these colors I'm using the TN9, TN6, and TN4. And I go over the lines that are on the original stamp with some of the darker colors, with the darker color, the TN9, and then go over that with the TN6, and then blend it all out with the TN4. And I will go through that a couple different times just to make the colors stand out. Then I'm moving on to my sandcastle. I switch back to Copic markers. And here I'm using the E25 as the dark, and then go into the E23 and the E21 as the light color. I used this miniature stamp set of these seashells from the Stamps of Life, and I stamped the small seashell and a couple of those and a couple of this spiral seashell, and colored them in with my Copic markers, and I fussy cut them out.
Now this stamp set actually is not one that they sell. It was a freebie that they gave away. So I'm using this die to make a pop-up box card. It's the Sizzix Framelit 661845 by Stephanie Barnard from the Stamps of Life. It comes with the actual box as well as these flower dies. I'm not using the flower dies, just the box. And this is the main die that you will need in the set. And I'm using this particular border. There's like 3 or 4 different border styles that you can use. And this border is just the border of the box on each side, as you see here. And this is a scalloped border. I'm using this one that has the triangles. And you simply need to just attach it like this and put some washi tape on there to hold it in, and run this through your die cut machine. And I'm using the Ginger Snap paper by the Stamps of Life, and I ran this through 2 times because you need 2 of these panels. I am going to add some score tape. I'm just going to fold the sides here on each of these panels and add some score tape to them, because we're going to add them to the box. I'm also going to fold up the side, the short side of each panel, and the box is eventually going to look like this. So we are going to add some score tape to each of these little tiny flaps. And the score tape is going to end up being on the outside of the flap. And you're going to do it for each of them. And then peel that up and add that flap to the opposite panel. And do the same for each. Now I'm going to fold down the 2 sides on the score lines, just like that. And I'm going to fold down the front, but I'm going to leave the back standing up. So my box is going to look like this. Next, I'm going to use the Sparkle Collection paper pad, and I'm going to use the Waves paper. I'm going to clear that out. And I'm going to use this die from the die set for the box card, and I'm going to die cut 2 pieces of the Waves paper for the middle of the box card. So here are my die cut pieces, and I'm going to fold along the score lines. And I need to put some tape along these score lines. And these are going to fit inside the box card just like this. So I'm going to just see where I want them placed, and then I will remove the adhesive.
I cut a piece of watercolored paper down to 3.5 by 3.5, and I'm using my Distress inks, and I started out with the Broken China, and then I went into the Salty Ocean.
So I want to put some sand at the bottom. So I am going to come in with some score tape, which I cut 3.5 inches, and I'm just going to just cut the top so it's kind of curvy. I don't want it straight. And then I'm going to place that on the bottom. I'm going to cut off the excess tape. Press that down really well. And I'm going to peel that off and add some of this sand to the tape. And it's just like glitter, only this is sand. It's from Mud Puddles. It's called Tahiti. I bought this at one of the scrapbook expos last year, and it looks like real sand, but you can use it the same as you would glitter, and it sticks nicely to the bottom. So I went ahead and took this piece that I put the sand on in the sky background. I put double-sided adhesive on the back, and that piece is going to go right here in the background. So when we adhere it, we just have to be really careful because it's a very narrow area in which to put this in. So there it is. You really can't see the sand much at the bottom, but it's there. Okay, so I'm going to use the palm tree branches on the Island to Visit stamp set from the Stamps of Life. And I'm going to place it on my paper, grab that with my platform. I'm using the Tim Holtz stamping platform. And I'm going to use the Artichoke Color Box ink from the Stamps of Life. And I'm going to ink that up. And I'm going to try and cover up that center just a little bit more. And I'm going to add a little bit of kiwi just to the branches. Let's see if that adds just a little bit extra color. So it kind of has a little bit of a two-toned effect. And I used the corresponding die cut, and I die cut the branches out. Okay, so next I'm going to take this palm tree that I die cut, and I'm going to add it to the background, just like that. So I'm going to put adhesive on the whole back side of this palm tree. And I could put some on these branches, but nowhere else because I don't want adhesive on the back of that. Okay, so I've decided to go ahead and take the same pattern paper that I used for the waves in the middle of the box card, and I'm taking the die that I used to create the box card, and I just want to cut out this panel and this panel. So what that gives me are these two pieces, which I'm probably not going to use this piece, but this piece I want to extend the water, so I'm going to attach it directly onto this panel, and I'm going to adhere it with glue. Okay, so on the sides, I want to go ahead and add some more ocean, but I don't have enough longer pieces. So I have to take a shorter piece of cardstock, and I'm taking this die that was in the original box card die set. These are actually for these side pieces to decorate the sides. But I am going to go ahead and use this to cut out a side piece to decorate this side. It's just not going to have these scalloped edges, these triangle scalloped edges, because I don't have a long enough piece of cardstock. I only have one and I'm missing one. So I want them to be uniform. So I'm just going to use this on both sides. Whereas this one's coming down to the edge, these will not come down to the edge. So here are the two die cut pieces. And I'm going to adhere those right on the sides, on the side panels of the pop-up card. So here's the panels attached. Now I want to go ahead and decorate these side panels, just the one on the left and right and the one on the front. So I'm going to take a piece of just plain cardstock, and I am going to put some double-sided adhesive on the back of that. So here's my white cardstock with the double-sided adhesive. And I'm going to take these two dies that came in the box card set, and I'm going to die cut the large rectangle, and I'm going to die cut the small rectangle 2 times, one for each side of the card. So one for the left and one for the right. All right, so here are my 3 panels. And there's double-sided adhesive on the back, which is actually going to end up being the front, because I want to do the same effect that I did down here with the sand, and I want to make it look like there is sand going all along the bottom of this card. So I am going to take the adhesive off. And we'll start with the large panel. I'm going to take my Mud Puddles Tahiti sand, and I am just going to sprinkle that all over, cover that up really good. Again, this is just like glitter, only it's the texture and the look of sand, which I love. It gives a very realistic finish to a beachy type card. So there's one. Just get all the excess off, and then we'll do the other 2. All right, so I added some double-sided adhesive to the back of this. There's the sand texture, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to my card. So the large panel goes on the front. Just get your fingers under there to kind of press down. And then the smaller panels will go on the side. And there's the panels. And just kind of fold the card in to press that down really well. Okay.
Now I'm going to start putting the card together. You can see that on that flap, on the front flap, I went ahead and stamped out a sentiment, "Have a fantastic birthday," and that is from the Dolphins to stamp set. And I went ahead and put the dolphins in. Now I'm putting the fish on the front and some of the other little fishies there on the front of the card and on the flaps. The starfish, the other orange fish, and then the sand castle I applied with the Tombow glue as well as the beach ball, but then later I found out that that glue was not sticking very well to that sand background, so I had to take those items off and reapply with double-sided tape. And here I just added another fish, and this is my complete card. It actually folds up like a, to fit inside an A2 size envelope, but because that palm tree is so large sticking up, it's going to have to go in a larger envelope. If the palm tree wasn't included, I would be able to fit it inside an A2 size card. But this card is so stinking cute, and I know that my son is going to love it for his birthday. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe to my channel for more card inspiration. And if you liked this video, give me a thumbs up. Again, thanks for watching.